When I was a little girl, I used to wait by the door every evening. I would hear the sound of my father's shoes outside, the jingle of his keys, and my heart would race. I'd run to him, hoping he would smile, maybe call my name, maybe just once, but he never did. He would walk past me, quiet, his face tired, his eyes distant. He would nod slightly, sometimes place his hand on my head, but he never said my name, not once. For years, I tried to understand why. Maybe I had done something wrong, maybe I reminded him of something he wanted to forget. I asked my mother once, "Mama, why doesn't Papa say my name?" She paused, smiled softly, and said, "He's just quiet, my love. That's how he is." But I knew that wasn't the whole truth. Every night, when I would lie in bed, I whispered my own name into the dark, just to remind myself it existed. It felt like a small act of courage, something to fill the silence he left behind years past. I grew older. He grew quieter, and between us stood this invisible wall of silence that I could never climb. We were an ordinary family, at least on the outside. My mother was gentle and warm, she spoke enough for all of us. My father was a schoolteacher, quiet and serious. We lived in a small town where everyone knew everyone. People used to say, "You're lucky to have such a respectful father." I used to nod and smile, but inside, I felt like a stranger in my own home. I saw how he spoke kindly to others, neighbors, students, shopkeepers, even my younger brother, but with me, it was different, just silence. Always silence. Still, I loved him. I wanted to believe he loved me too. Maybe he just didn't know how to show it. As I grew older, the silence between us turned heavier. On my birthday, he'd hand me a gift without looking up. At dinner, he'd speak to everyone else, never me. One evening, I finally gathered the courage to ask, "Papa, did I do something wrong?" He didn't answer. He just folded his newspaper and walked away. I remember sitting there, tears filling my eyes, trying to stay quiet so no one would notice, but my mother did. She came to me, touched my shoulder, and whispered, "Don't ask him again. Some wounds take time." I didn't understand what she meant, but the word wounds stayed with me. Wounds? What wounds? Years went by, and we lived like that, side by side, strangers sharing the same home. Then one winter, everything changed. My father fell ill. It was sudden, his voice became weaker, his steps slower. He stopped going to work and spent most of his days lying near the window. I would bring him tea, soup, medicine, anything to make him comfortable. He never said thank you. He never said my name. One evening, as the rain poured outside, I walked into his room quietly. He was asleep, or maybe pretending to be. On the small wooden table beside him lay a bundle of old letters tied with a faded ribbon. Curiosity whispered in my heart. I opened one. It was addressed to Amara. "That's my name." My breath caught. I began to read. The handwriting was his, neat, familiar, filled with emotion I had never seen from him before. He had written, "My dear Amara, I wish I could tell you how much I love you, but every time I try, the words die in my throat. You remind me too much of the one I couldn't save. Your mother doesn't know this, but before you were born, we had another daughter. She had your eyes, your laugh. We lost her before she turned 3. The day she died, I called her name again and again, and it was your name. I couldn't say it again, not without breaking." I dropped the letter, my hands trembling, tears ran down my face. For the first time, I understood the silence wasn't rejection. It was grief. That night, I sat beside him. He was awake now, his eyes weak but calm. He looked at me, really looked at me. For the first time in years, I took his hand and whispered, "It's okay, Papa. You can say it now." He opened his mouth, and I saw the struggle in his eyes. Then, with a trembling voice, he whispered, "Amara." Just once, soft, broken, but full of love. I cried quietly, holding his hand until morning. It was the only time he ever said my name, and the last. After he passed, I found myself repeating that moment again and again in my mind, the sound of my name from his lips, weak, but real. It felt like the missing piece of my childhood had finally returned home. For a long time, I blamed myself for his silence. But now I see, sometimes, silence is not a punishment, it's pain trying to heal in its own quiet way. I think of him often when it rains. I imagine him standing by that old window, watching the world go by, carrying memories too heavy to speak aloud. If I could tell him one thing now, I'd say, "Papa, I forgive you. And I love you. I always did." Sometimes love doesn't sound like words, sometimes it's in the things left unsaid, in the small acts, in the way someone waits for you, protects you, or simply stays. I've learned that silence can hold stories deeper than sound, and when you finally understand someone's silence, you see their love in a way words could never show. Now, when I whisper my name, it doesn't echo in emptiness anymore. It feels whole. It feels blessed. The day I discovered why my father never spoke my name was also the day I finally hurt his heart.